Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's KETIV Autodesk Virtual Academy. Today, I'm joined by Yvonne Liu, who's one of the members of our Lifeline team here, our Lifeline support team. I'm sure some of you have talked to her on the phone in regards to support for your products. But today, we're not here for that. We're here for the Inventor Presentation environment. So why choose this? We've kind of chosen the presentation environment because it did get completely revamped in the 2017 version, the release of the software that came out I want to say about 8 months ago now, and it is definitely a huge change from 2016 and prior. Also, I think it's necessary for everyone to kind of know how to use this or a tool similar to be able to document your assemblies and be able to present the best documentation to colleagues or even for marketing purposes. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Yvonne, and let's get started.
Thank you, Nigel, first of all, for having me here. I'd like to go over why we use presentations. And why we use presentations is because it allows us to really engage and connect with all our colleagues as well as clients in a really clear manner. In my experience, using presentations, or especially the exploded view, allowed me to really present my designs in a concise manner with a shop floor, along with anyone else that needed to see my design. And by including this documentation and these assembly instructions, this was able to reduce the time it took for the production to go back and forth with me to finalize a prototype. And the presentation environment takes us one step further, that by generating videos and also being really engaging by generating videos and also raster image outputs, so that it's really engaging to both clients as well as the production floor. So we'll be going over in the next few minutes the exploded views. And the exploded views, you can actually really easily arrange your components for drawings using the tweak command, and then also snapshot views. And snapshot views really allow us to capture specific models and camera angles so that we can actually have outputs for our raster image outputs, and then also our drawings as well. And then also we'll be going over the timeline-based story, and this is actually completely new because it actually makes it really easy to control and edit your assembly sequences and movements. And you can change the allotted time that you want it to give so that you can create your animations and make them look and appear realistic as well. So with that, we're going to go over a demonstration. And this link is actually, as you can see, this link was actually provided by our Fusion team members that were working on a gearbox from their Baja car. And this is something that they gave me so that once I can click on it, I'll be able to download relatively easily. And then from here, I can just click on download, and I'll be able to download any of these files that would be seen fit. So in this case, I'd be downloading the Inventor file. And with Fusion, what's really great is that you can actually upload any CAD that you would like, especially with SolidWorks or step files, any of them that can be uploaded, and then I can go ahead and download them for myself and for my own use. So with that, I'm going to go into my demonstration. As you see here, this is my model. There are 3 ways to really access the presentation environment. And the first one is to go ahead and click on the top new portion, the top toolbar, and you can go ahead and click on that, and it'll be presented right here with the presentation environment. The second one would be clicking on File, and then you would click New, and then you can also be presented with that presentation environment. But the third way, I think, is the one that's easiest and the way I'm really comfortable with, is actually go ahead and clicking on this title of the tree, and then clicking on right-clicking, and then create presentation from there. So I'm going to go ahead and create the presentation. You'll be shown this dialog box, and in this dialog box, you can click on whatever template that you have, and in this case, I have the standard template. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and then within this environment, there's a few new features. One of them is new storyboard. And new storyboard will actually add the storyboard to your presentation file. And you can actually do the same thing right here by clicking on this plus sign down here on the timeline. And in this timeline, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And you'll be presented with this dialog box of whether or not you want this to be a clean slated timeline, or you would want to start from the end of a previous timeline. And then also, there's another new feature called New Snapshot Feature. It basically saves the current state of the model and the camera, and then it'll basically create this new snapshot view, and it'll be presented right here. And tweak components right here, tweak components will go over the movement of any part that you want it to be moved. It'll also move it rotationally as well. And then opacity right here, it also sets how transparent you would like this part to be. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the exploded view as well, and you can also use this with the tweak command. So you can actually go ahead and click Control, and this will select all the parts that you would like to have. And then right-click, and then I'm going to go ahead and click Tweak Components. So there are a few options here within this mini toolbar. One of them is Move, which is the one I'm using right now, and this will be basically a translational movement. And then Rotate right here will be your rotational movement. And then Part right here is basically where you can select the component or the part. Component meaning any subassemblies within your part. And then Part, which is the one I'm selecting right now, and that'll be basically the single parts that will be there. Local is the coordinate system that you have. The local coordinate system is the one that's currently on the part itself. There's also a drop-down menu, and you can actually use the local versus the world. And world will be the coordinate system that goes along with Inventor. And this is the world coordinate system within Inventor. Locate will actually go ahead and basically have your triad that you can move anywhere that you want to. I'll go ahead and click to local. And then also all components, well, this drop-down menu relates to the trails that you have. You can click no trails, and this will just move them without having any trails. And then all components will meaning that every single part will have its own trail. And then all parts would mean that a selected part will have its own trail, and then single meaning one part will have its own trail. And right here, you can actually add trails, and then by clicking on add, we'll add another trail line usually that you can add within your tweak or within your exploded view. And then duration right here, duration is the amount of time that you want this to take, this movement, the time that you want this to move through to. And then right here, this button is actually where you can pin the mini toolbar, or you can have it auto fade once you're done. So I'm going to go ahead and move this component. And then you can also configure this by actually inputting the number that you would actually want this to be moved to. And you'll see here, once you do that, this button right here, this is the add and remove components that will start popping up for you. And that's where you can actually add components that you want this to be added to, or if you do not want this to be added to. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then once that's in there, you'll see that over here on the timeline, there's a few cross arrows that are actually populated in the timeline. And this means that it's actually a translational movement, or that it's actually moved right here. So I'm going to go ahead and also just do another translational movement within the tweak command.
And you don't have to do this just by clicking the parts. There is a model browser here as well on the left behind that Snapshot Views panel. You can click the parts in the browser if you'd like, and then tweak them through there. That's another way to do it, so you don't necessarily have to click everything. You could also right-click any of the parts if you're looking for them in the browser. Right-click any parts, subassemblies, components, and then right-click Find in Browser, and you'll be able to find it in the browser that way. That's something they added in 2017 that they didn't have in 2016. So if you're looking for that, that one washer that's in your 1,000-part assembly or multiple 1,000-part assembly, you're trying to find it in some subassembly somewhere deep in your browser. It's a lot easier now than it was before.
Right. And so if you can look right here in the timeline, there's actually a few components right here that have been added again. And I looked here and I saw that I accidentally added this within this component, but you can actually go ahead and either delete it or you can move this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. You can always you can right-click on this timeline area and then click on delete and then click on current, which is actually just this one part. And this will bring it back to this assembly model. So I'm going to go ahead and also create a rotation, and just to make it easier so that you can have a more realistic approach to your timeline and your storyboard. And so whenever you do create your your drawing view, you'll actually have this incorporated as well. So I'm going to go ahead and tweak that and then move it.
And so, like Yvonne did, she just rotated it using using some of the options there in Inventor. You could also like explicitly denote any radian or degrees, and you can get it to rotate that way. I don't know like the shortcut key for pi though, so I wouldn't be able to do it that way. But
so also you can see this will appear in the timeline right here. You can click on this arrow right here, and then it'll actually show up the two different components that have moved. And this is the rotation, and then this is the move. If you want them to appear more realistic, you can just move this over so as you see fit right here, and then you can play this right here, and it'll actually move around the same time.
Yeah, and so this works for anytime you want to anytime you want multiple parts to move at the same time, or say for example you create these tweaks in the wrong order. Say for example we pulled that plate out before we pulled the bolts. Obviously that's not realistic in terms of assembly. You can always just rearrange any of these tweaks at any time by selecting them there in the storyboard and just moving those tweaks to whatever desired time you want them at. Or you can make them shorter or longer, things like that.
Right. And so I'm going to also create an opaque movement by just selecting on this part and then clicking on opacity. And you'll receive this dialog box that asks you if you would like to break associativity and modify the scene, or keep associativity and override this change. You can actually do this as you see fit. If you like to break the associativity, whether or not you like to keep the associativity, I'm just going to go ahead and override this for now. And then right here, you'll see this mini toolbar for that. You can actually go ahead and change this to whichever number that you'd like, and you can also include a number right here. The restore button is where you can actually go back to 100 if you click on that. And then this button right here will actually allow you to pin the menu toolbar again or keep it auto-faded.
So that's really useful if you need to see a part that's like internal of another part, or there's just something in the way of your view and you kind of want to either, you don't want to turn the visibility off completely. You want that representation to still be there, that the part still exists, but you need to see around it. In regards to the associativity, I saw this question come in. What she's doing, or if you break the associativity there, what it's breaking is the associativity between this presentation file and the design view representation that this scene is using. So there is this scene, which is kind of like this set right here. And it's associated to, or it can be associated to a design view representation in your assembly, whether that be the master, the default, or any ones that you've created, including level of details and such. So what happens is, since that part, that drum there, was not, that the opacity wasn't adjusted within that view representation, it's saying, hey, this wasn't adjusted in your assembly view. Do you want to override that in the presentation, or do you want to break the associativity between the assembly and this presentation? So there's a couple ways you can do it. It depends on really if you want to maintain that link between your assembly view representation and this, or you're just changing this for the sake of getting a particular view out of it.
Okay. And so within the storyboard timeline, you can actually scroll down, and this is where the part is, and this is opacity. Opacity, you can actually go ahead and change the time that you want this to take in terms of the opacity, and you can actually decrease the time if you want them to as well. And so we're going to go ahead and go to this new snapshot view. In this new snapshot view, we can actually take a snapshot of this, and this will save this current state. So we'll go ahead and click OK, and then it'll actually just generate it, and then it appeared right here on our left-hand side. And then we're going to go ahead and create another one, just for intents right here. And then you can just click on New Snapshot View again, and it'll recreate that. One thing you can do is say that if you think that this snapshot view is something that you would like to change, you can actually go ahead and click on this blue arrow right here. It's down by the storyboard timeline, and you can move it to the place that you want it to. And then once you do that, you can go to the Snapshot View panel right here on the left-hand side, and you'll see that this blue Update View arrow is actually fixed right there. You can go ahead and click on that, and that'll go ahead and update the view for you. One thing you can also do is you can double-click on one of those views, and it'll bring you to the View command area. And this area is where you can actually tweak your components or move them to however you want them to be like within your view. You can also update the camera view as well, and that's if you go ahead and just move that. Say if you want to move this, and then this will update that camera view for you. And then this right here, you can actually create the drawing view from here, or you can actually create a raster view from here as well. I'm going to go ahead and click on this view, and then create a drawing from there. And you'll be given this pop-up sign that you must save this part assembly before placing the view, and then it says, would you like to save the document now? I'm going to click OK.
There you go.
Okay. And then you'll be prompted for this drawing template, and then I'm going to go ahead and just click on this IDW. And then this is a style conflict that normally happens, and there's actually a different AVA on this. That will actually give you this, the styles and if you want them to be incorporated, and usually different styles will be presented.
Yeah, I'm sure many of you have seen this particular dialog box before. Mm-hmm. It's essentially saying there is a styles conflict between the template and what your styles library says. If you want to figure out how to get rid of this forever, or you want to make sure that you're using the right styles and stuff, we do have an AVA for this. That was done by Daniel, who's another member of our Lifeline team. And you can just search our YouTube channel and find that one if this is something that you need as well.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then you'll be presented with your assembly right here. And then right here you'll see that there's a pop-up right here that you can actually create for your drawing view. And right here, there's an associative button, and that's something you can choose for your presentation. And then right here, there's a button right here if you'd like to show the trails, or if you wouldn't like to show the trails. And then I'm going to go ahead and change the scale. But these are the few images that you can use. Basically, this is the assembly that you can use. You can also add the parts list that you want as well. And then also include any of the instructions that you have in the case that you're presenting this in the shop floor.
Yeah, just assembly instructions if you want to do it this way. This is one way you can get those assembly instructions to whoever you need to get them to. Yvonne, if you want to just right-click that view real quick for me. Just exit out of that and double-click the view there. Right-click it. Yeah. So if you want to just show the associativity button, which is this chain, that is the associative button. Sometimes this gets overlooked. This comes into support probably like maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks or so, where hey, my assembly changed, but my drawing didn't update. Why? And 9 times out of 10, it's usually this button. And so this button, it looks kind of like a chain. It's associativity. What this is going to do is it's going to create associativity between the drawing and that particular view, which is the snapshot view from your presentation that she selected there. So if that's something that you need, and you need to keep your drawing completely updated with any changes you make in your presentation file, definitely make sure you click this button. It's definitely something that comes up a lot. So.
Great. I'm going to go back to the presentation file. And here you can always click on Finish Edit View, and it'll bring you back to the environment right here. And here you can actually have 2 places where you can publish your raster image files and also your video. So I'm going to go ahead and click on raster image. And you can there's 3 scopes that you can pick. You can either pick all the views within basically in your snapshot view area, or the one that you select. And then you can also change the size of your snapshot view by going ahead and clicking on this drop-down menu, And the largest one that I'll go up to is 920 by 1080. You can also change the resolution on this raster image as well. And there's a few file formats that you can actually change to. And these are the file formats, the .bmp, .gif, and the JPEG, and the PNG, and the .tiff, depending on your need. And then you can also click on this transparent background. This transparent background is there to basically, if you want an image that if you don't want an image that has this blue background, and if you want it to be just white, that's something you can choose as well.
Yeah, and if you say, for example, you need to blow this up super large, say on a poster or something, you're going to want to increase that resolution size or that resolution number from 72 to something larger, something along the lines of like the 2, maybe 300s. Obviously, the file's going to be a little bit larger if that's the case, but if you do want it to not get grainy as you blow it up, you're going to want to increase that resolution. 72 in terms of the resolution is fine if you're going to like print this thing to a piece of paper, or you're not going to view it for anything much larger than like a computer screen. That should be fine.
Okay, and so I just wanted to show you really quickly. This is actually the one that's not transparent. And then this is the image that you can use for the transparent one.
Yeah, just so note that any environment that the presentation is in is not showing up when it's transparent. So that blue gradient's away or gone. Or say you're messing around with the environments for your views and you go to something cool, kind of like Empty Lab. I use that one sometimes. Then it won't show up if you make it transparent. But all of your parts will be there. None of the parts will be transparent, just the background.
Right. Another one is the video that I was going to show you. The video, you can just click on that, and that'll actually publish just all storyboards or the current storyboard. It also has that reverse option as well, where you can actually go from 10 seconds to 0 seconds. And then you can also change the size of this. The size also goes up to 920 by 1080. Unfortunately, you can't change the resolution, but you can change the file format to either AVI or WNV.
Yeah, and so the reason they give you that reverse function there is so that you're creating an exploded view here. When you're creating an exploded view and you play this forward, it's as if you were taking the assembly apart. In most cases, when people are using things like these presentation files, a lot of times it's for assembly documentation for someone on the shop floor, or to even send to customers on how to actually build this assembly. If you play it forward, it's as if you're taking it apart. So the reason they have it reverse is so it looks like you're putting it together, if that makes any sense. So definitely use that a ton.
So I'm going to show you, this is how this will look like with it forward. And this is how it will look like with it reversed. And so basically, it just is a way to actually disassemble versus assembling your items. And so either if you want this to be shown to anyone, you can actually have it assembled in one manner, and disassembled in a different manner, depending on who you're showing this to, whether it be either your clients or people on the production floor. And with that, that basically concludes most of the features within the presentation environment of Inventor 2017. I'll go ahead and show you the differences between 2016 and versus 2017.
And just so you can visualize the difference like side by side, sometimes you won't necessarily notice unless you're looking at them directly. If you want to explain here.
So right, as you see in this area, there's a few key features that are just missing on the toolbar. It's still there. You can actually create videos within 2016. You can also tweak your components as well. It's just that they are lacking this new storyboard. And this new storyboard, which would be right here most of the time, and it's right here listed right here, but it's missing on this area. And then it's also missing this new snapshot view, which was it's lacking right here, but it's actually showing up right here. And then there's also this capture camera view, which will allow you to change whichever angle that you wanted to have this changed to. And then also it's missing that create drawing view function on the toolbar itself. So these are just a few key features that have been implemented in 2017 that would really help you and make it easier to actually create your drawings and create videos, and then also create these like raster image outputs and place them wherever you need them, whether it's technical documents or for any paper that you have or any instruction manual.
So yeah, just to reiterate that, the top left is 2016, the bottom right is 2017. If you can't read that, I know the text is a little bit small. Another thing that it truly is a full overhaul of the presentation environment. Some people are like, oh, they just changed how it looked. It's definitely a full overhaul. They took a lot of the suggestions that people had for this environment specifically, and they fix them. I know that one big thing that a lot of people had issues with, and I'm sure some people here can relate, is if you did 2 tweaks on one component at 2 different times and you had the trails on it, they wouldn't necessarily connect, or you'd be missing. You'd only have the trail for the last tweak. Say, for example, you move something in the X direction, then in the Y direction. You'd only see the tweak in the Y direction, and you wouldn't see the tweak for that component in the X direction at all. And that's something that they changed in 2017. That's huge for some people, because if you do it in the wrong order, you're going to get the tweak. You're going to get your trail in the wrong place.
Right. And then, so just to summarize, that's the key features. So basically, with exploded views, you can actually use the tweak command to add and remove trails. And then in the snapshot view, you can actually create these pictures with it captures a model and then also captures the angle of whatever you like to create these raster image outputs for any of the technical documents or for any documents with instructables that you have. And then also with storylines, you can actually change the placement of where you want them to be at, and also from there you can create these animations. And this will actually make your presentations a little bit easier to look through, and also be a little bit more concise when you're presenting this to anybody, whether it be anyone on the shop floor or any client that you have. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and just go to Q&A, and I just really thank you everyone for having me here. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Yep, definitely. It looks like we have a couple here. This one came up twice actually, and people are mentioning they don't see a model browser in an assembly view, or in the presentation view. So if you want to just jump back into Inventor here real quick, it does exist. It's just behind the snapshot view. So go ahead and X out of that. There's the model view. So essentially, I'm just going to grab the mouse here real quick. The model tree is here as if you were to see it in your normal assembly. You can highlight things and still be able to find them within the assembly. Or you could, like I mentioned earlier, you could even right-click anywhere in the assembly, do a find in browser, and it'll jump directly to that component. So yeah, it's just here. It's just hiding behind some stuff. And then just another thing I want to mention here real quick is that this is one particular scene. If you wanted to have multiple scenes here, say for example you want to do an explode to show how to assemble this portion, and you want to do an explode to show a different portion, say for example this case here, and you wanted to do that separately, all you have to do is right-click the presentation file and create a new scene. What this does is it's going to have you look for the file. I don't know where it is on a computer, but it'll have you look for the file, drop it into this presentation environment. It doesn't even have to be the same file. It could be something else. Drop it in, and then it'll ask you what design view representation you want, what level of detail and positional representation you want to use for the presentation. So definitely, if you wanted to create more than one, it's possible. Just create another scene there. And we got another question about the associativity. I think we covered that. When we're breaking the associativity within the presentation, we're breaking it from, correct me if I'm wrong, the assembly and the presentation, so not the drawing and the presentation. The drawing associativity is to the presentation, if that makes sense. So the drawing is associated to the presentation, which is associative to the assembly. Hopefully that makes some sense. Let's see here. And then Mark here asks, can you add parts to an assembly? I don't think you can do it in this environment, Yvonne, right?
In this environment, no.
So you need to go into the assembly environment, just open your regular old IAM file, and then go from there. And that's easy to do, Yvonne, if you want to show how to just open the assembly from within here, within the presentation. So, yeah, if you right-click the assembly, and then you do open, it'll open the assembly if it's not already open. Unfortunately, the assembly file was already open here. If it wasn't open already, what would happen is similar to opening parts within assemblies, it would just open an instance, another window of Inventor. Not an instance of Inventor, but another window within Inventor that has that assembly. And then would there be a way of showing / referencing tools that would be needed for assembly, maybe even turning certain fasteners? I don't think there's like an automatic way to do it, Andy, if you're using things like Content Center parts. You could add annotations like text and such to your drawing, and pretty much add whatever you needed. So you can always manually just create a text box and do that in that sense. And then got a question here from George, and George is asking about Inventor Publisher. So I knew this question was going to come up. So Inventor Publisher was something that they stopped making for the 2017 release. Essentially what they're doing is, for those of you using Publisher before, you could do a lot of this stuff, some assembly documentation and instructional things with Publisher. I know a lot of people are using it for that reason. Publisher doesn't exist in 2017. They stopped in 2016 for that release. But what they're doing from the Autodesk end of things is they're slowly rolling out all of the Publisher functionality into base Inventor. So you're going to be able to do that without opening another program. The process is slow. They can't just throw an entire piece of software into this one and have it work like from day one. So they've already added some of those things. They'll be adding, I guess, the remainder of it slowly moving forward. And then Randy asks, can you reestablish associativity after breaking it? It depends on what associativity you're breaking. Let's see here. If you go into the IPN file here and you right-click this scene, and you go to Representations, if you've broken the associativity, this is going to be off. You can turn it back on here to whatever view representation you want. If you turn it on to master, obviously the associativity is going to be there for sure. Let's say, for example, a default or even some extra view reps. You can change the associativity within the presentation file from within here. Just to reiterate, or not reiterate, explain, if this is off and you add something to your assembly, say for example another part, it won't show up in the presentation file. If you want that to show up in your presentation file after the fact, if you, say for example, go back into that assembly, add another component, turn this on, and that component will show up in here. If anyone has any questions about that, you can definitely let us know. And if it's at all confusing, we can help straighten that out. The same thing on the drawing end of things. If you want to jump into the drawing real quick, Yvonne.
Of course.
And double-click the view, same thing. You can always turn on that associativity for the base view at any time. Just go in here, edit the view, and click that chain button. And it's a little off subject. Are they going to replace Showcase with something else? I bring these models into Showcase. So at this point, I don't think there are any plans for replacing Showcase. I think I can confirm that. What I'll do that for you, Brian, is I'll confirm that with some of my colleagues here, and I'll get back to you in regards to Showcase. Showcase is another program, for those of you who don't know, where you can do similar things to this. Showcase and 3ds Max would be another one. So for those of you who have Product Design Suite Ultimate or similar products, you have access to 3ds Max. You can do similar exploded views in Max, and you can go even crazier in terms of the animations and such. And you can do all of that. But I think that's it with questions, unless any last-minute ones come in. I'll give everybody about 30 seconds to do that. But again, I'd like to thank you, Yvonne, for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, because if you didn't show up, I might have to do this presentation. So Again, I'd like to thank everyone, all the attendees for constantly, giving us support and showing up week after week. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. I think there's a lot of value within all of this. If you do want to, recommend Aviate to any of your colleagues, definitely, if they don't already have a link to sign up for it, you can let us know and we can get that link sent out to them. Just let us know in the survey afterwards. It looks like no other questions came in, but do have a couple of announcements here. Next week, Jorge Fernandez, I'm sure you've all seen him if you watched a couple of these AVAs before, is going to be doing a webcast for us in regards to some Vault Pro life cycles. So if that's something you're looking into, doing product life cycles, or even things like data management and Vault in general, you just kind of want to know what its capabilities are, or how to even get started with things like that. Jorge will be here to explain those next week, how to create your life cycles, kind of the process in regards to how to design what your life cycle is going to look like, what processes you need, what people you need to be involved to approve things and kind of go back through that life cycle state. So with that, I'll let you all go today. Thank you again for being here. Thank you, Yvonne, lastly, and we'll see you next week.